Good morning. Welcome to Design San Francisco Fall. Thank you all for coming. And welcome, Mavericks of Design. I'm Michael Moore. I'm the Director of Marketing here, and it's my privilege to actually organize these events, and it's great to see everybody turn out to enjoy them. I wanted to thank D'Souza Hughes for providing the vignette you see on the stage. I also wanted to invite you all to join us at Riggs after the keynote panel for a reception. And I wanted to let you know we have a restaurant now. You may have noticed Tapestry is open for full service. For the duration of the market today and tomorrow, we're extending our happy hour from 3 to 6 p.m., so please stop by for a drink, and because I want to see you there. Anyway, thank you for coming. I hope to see you all tomorrow as well. And Mary Jo, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I'm Mary Jo Bowling. I'm the Homes Editor for Luxe Interiors and Design in San Francisco. And you know, I'm not one to get hung up on crowd size at events. But I will say, look at this beautiful crowd. Thank you so much for coming. And I'll brag about it on social media later. And also, Michael, thank you so much, and happy 50th anniversary to the San Francisco Design Center. Now, we're here today to talk about Mavericks. And so I Googled the word maverick, the definition, and this is what came up on my screen. An unorthodox or independent-minded person, a trailblazer. Now, you can look that up online, but if you want to see examples of living, breathing design mavericks, they're right here on stage with me. And we're going to find out about what that means to them and what it means to their career. But first, I want everyone to introduce themselves. Noz, we're going to start with you and say a word about who you are, your firm, and a real maverick move that you or your firm have made lately.
Just right out the gate, Mary
Let's
Jo.
do it.
Oh my God, it's not even barely 10 a.m. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Noz Nozawa, principal and founder of Noz Design, based here in San Francisco over in Alamo Square. I started this business in spring of 2014, and a maverick thing that I think our office does is we don't track any of our hours. I don't know, we'll come up with better ideas. I'm like, whoa, cold turkey, yikes. So
Yeah.
how's that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Alicia Cheung. I'm one of the founders of Studio Heimat, and Ava, who's my business partner, is sitting right there. Hi, Ava. And we're based in San Francisco. We've been around for almost 10 years. It'll be this upcoming spring. So, when I think of the word Mavericks, I also think of something kind of like cowboy. I think of like a cowboy. I think of someone who is kind of making decisions on the fly or flying by the seat of their pants a little bit. And and our Maverick moment is like the very beginning. We left and we had maybe one client. And I don't know if that's, Maverick or just kind of blissfully being naive. But that is something that, we built our clientele from scratch, really. And lucky to still be here for, almost 10 years later.
Yeah.
I'm John De La Cruz, DLCID. I've been working since 1998. I started my own firm in 2015. I think my Maverick moment was deciding to open my office in Oakland, which was a big choice. But then 2 years ago, my second Maverick moment was to move back into the city and vertically integrate our business so that we are now working in a warehouse. We do our own receiving with the purchasing and the design and meeting clients there as well. So being able to streamline our process and not have to outsource receiving is a huge thing for us.
Hi everyone, my name is Sindhu and my company is Peruri Design Company. We are based in the South Bay in Los Altos, and it's lovely to see my colleagues in the audience, familiar faces relaxing me. Thank you for coming. I don't know if I've had a maverick moment or a trailblazing moment. I don't know if this counts, but early on when I used to work for a larger firm, one of the clients told me that she loves to spend time in the rooms that I've designed.
Oh.
And she said, I said, why? What is it that you like about it? And she said, it's something about it that's romantic. And that was a little bit eye-opening for me because I used to write romantic poetry back in the day. So I've kind of just stuck to that feeling when I opened my own firm, and that's kind of has made the foundation for all my designs, really.
Yeah, your showcase room was romantic.
I thought so.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great. Now, of course, I want to say that this panel is presented in conjunction with the Asian American Pacific Islander Design Alliance. And this is an affinity group that all the members of the panel are members of. And so I wanted to ask, how did you start this chapter here in San Francisco? Because that's kind of a trailblazer move.
So I have been humbly nominated to answer this question on behalf of the AAPI Design Alliance. So pretty much the organization was actually ironically founded on the East Coast between Atlanta and New York around 2021 or so, when it was very clear that, you know, being a minority in any industry is already rad, but that we didn't have anything like this at that point. There were no AAPI affinity groups for design, architecture, contracting, et cetera, that had anything of note. And so as that got off the ground, I think the rest of us on the West Coast, AKA the Best Coast, were like, wow, we would also like a chapter. And so it's really only been in the last 18 months or so that things have gotten super off the ground. We're still a very fresh organization. And when it came to Northern California, we actually launched officially only in January of this year. So we're only like 3 quarters old. And it was very clear to us as like a very diverse group here in the Bay Area that nevertheless there is still so much more that we could do for our own advocacy, our own visibility as a minority group, and to inspire the next generation of creatives, because I think probably a shared commonality among so many of us with AAPI backgrounds is that we are not encouraged to be creatives professionally. We are encouraged to be doctors and dentists and lawyers and otherwise business professionals in more of a corporate Fortune 100 context. So it was really exciting for us. Me and Alicia, we currently head up the Northern California chapter to also have been invited onto the national board. So we can pretty much advocate for our whole West Coast to, get sponsors, et cetera. And I think, just in the last 9 months alone, it's been incredibly motivating and exciting to see how well received our organization is and how many brands and magazine editors like Mary Jo are so incredibly supportive. So yeah, now we've got chapters in Southern California, if anyone's in town visiting right now, the Pacific Northwest, we've got Chicago, Dallas is launching later this year or early next. So we've got representation soon in every major metro of the United States.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, we'll talk more about how people can take part if they're interested a little bit later. Let's talk about another Maverick moment. I want to hear about either your founder story or a moment that leveled up or really changed things for your career. And I know that 3 of you used to work for much larger firms. So if you tell your founder story, I want to know what sparked leaving the safety of a larger firm. John, you can start. He's looking. He wants to tell it. He's been waiting.
Well, I've been rehearsing. So in 2012, I turned 40, and during my birthday, I was actually on an install for one of my bosses with our team, and we went out to dinner. And it was just that moment. It was very nice, and I didn't make a big deal about it, and he didn't know. But we had dinner, and I felt, yes, surrounded by chosen family at work, but I didn't have my friends and family with me. And that was such a big turning point for me in terms of my design point of view and my experience, because by then I had already been 16 years into it, that I really felt like I should start doing this for myself. And I felt like I had oversold myself to work. So then I made the choice to eventually move on to do my own thing from there. Interesting.
What about you?
So I used to work for a really big firm back in the day in Portola Valley, and that I was lucky to have had a mentor That gave my style some provenance, I would say, some origin, and that was really important working in a big firm. And sometimes just by circumstance, you leave, and then sometimes it's the right play for you to leave and start your own firm, or it's by circumstance. And for me, it was the latter. And once my partner actually was a much older gentleman and he passed away, I decided to start my own firm in the summer of 2014, so soon after you, Noz. That was, it was a pivotal time because I had a toddler at home and a baby at home, but I just decided to go for it. It was the right time for me to not go and join another firm, but start within the confines of my house and with low overhead and expenses. And what I took with me, though, is the big firm mentality that I had from working for a firm, which was really useful. So there was a lot that I could already, that I'd already learned from working within larger firm, which was very helpful.
Yeah, and I think most people would agree when you have a new baby, it's the time to make a big career. Yeah. And what about you, Alicia?
So growing up, I was that entrepreneurial kid who had the lemonade stand, who bought candy wholesale, sold it out of a cookie tin on the bus, and later in middle school, I would make jewelry and sell it at a craft store. And my dad had been through 4 or 5 startups, so I grew up in Silicon Valley. So
Yeah.
I think the idea of entrepreneurship, starting my own business, was kind of ingrained in me from a very early age. Fast forward, I'm working at a very large firm, and I'm turning 30, and I'm just kind of at this point where I'm like, you know what, I'm married, but I don't have kids yet, I don't have a mortgage. This feels like a good, low-stakes time for me to take a chance on myself. And, what's the worst that can happen? I go find a job. Not that high stakes, So
Yeah.
for me, it would just kind of felt like that was the right moment.
Yeah. So Alicia and John worked at the same firm, and I'm thinking they better watch it when birthdays roll around. That's when people leave, right? Now, Noz, I know Noz is not going to tell a founder story. She already told me. So what was a moment that really leveled up your career?
Okay, so that's a great question. For the first several years of my design firm, I also was just working from home and just so absolutely terrified of paying for anything because I wasn't making money. And when you don't make money, you don't have it to spend. And for whatever reason, it never occurred to me to, take on a loan or do something where I could have working capital to think bigger picture. So the first time that I actually took on a part-time independent contractor and I paid their first paycheck, which was many thousands of dollars in my brain, I'm sure it was $3,000 actually, I realized that it didn't bankrupt me. And so I had to pull my ass together, honestly. I worked at Fortune 100 companies before. My past career was in marketing. I worked for Clorox. I worked at big tech startups that had tens of millions of dollars in funding. I didn't inherit any of that mentality where it was just spend the money until you start making it again. Do what Amazon did. They didn't make a profit for 5 years after they took on hundreds of millions of dollars in investment. I was if I don't have the money, then I can't spend it. And that was a big moment for me. It was just sending the money out there. The person received it. The check cleared. And I was okay. And that was it was such a small little moment, but it started to build from there very slowly. This was, 6 years ago, where I was wow, I think I can do this. I think I can spend on things that scare me and be okay and see how that goes and then spend a little more. And yeah, very humbly, that was kind of the big moment where I was oh, well, if I can do this, then I can spend more on photography and I can spend more on tools and technology and consultants and people who know more than I do. So
Yeah. Now, for those of you, and so Noz, you started in interior design. You were on your own from the beginning. But for those of you who worked for other people, and you made that decision to go out on your own, what was the big lesson, or what was a big lesson that you learned that might be helpful to anybody else out here who's going to have a birthday and do the same thing?
Well, to further Noz's point, payday is a very sobering day because you feel very empowered that you're employing so many people.
Yeah.
But you're also like, oh my God, I have to come up with this money and pay these people.
Yeah.
So it's that boss moment where you feel like I've made it.
Yeah.
But I have to keep on making it, and we have to sustain this to make this a viable company.
Yeah. So what is the lesson there that you learned?
Every minute counts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
for sure. And
That's a
every
good
minute's
one.
a hustle. And you're taking care of all of your employees. Make every project count. Make every minute that you spend count.
What about you, Alicia?
I would say that something that I guess was like surprising was I felt like I didn't realize this when I left, how much I was holding of everybody else's like schedule in my mind, of their preferences, of their just, anytime I'd want to respond to a client or to a vendor, I'd have to be like, okay, well, here's my response, here's what everyone else would say, what as a team collectively should I respond with? So when I left, it was like such a freeing moment. I didn't realize how much weight I could have, how much weight was lifted off because of that. I think lesson-wise, it would just be like being aware, I guess, of your, as a boss, being aware of your impact on those around you. I think we all hear, and know that the thing that drives people to leave their job often, number one reason is their manager, and they don't have a great relationship with them. So I think being able to be self-aware that you're building those relationships with your staff and your peers is like a huge way to retain people.
Yeah, and that's very important in this area, right? What about you, Sindhu? What are the big lessons?
Yeah, so I had a slightly different perspective because the person that I worked with passed away. So that's, I don't know if you remember Bob Miller.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
he's such
sure.
an icon
Yeah.
in the industry. So when that happened, for me, I was emulating him when I started my design firm. So that's part of it was comforting, but I can relate to something that you said where it was so liberating to not have to worry about anybody else too, because it was just me. And I had nothing to lose. So that was great. But what I did learn from Bob, which I took to me and I still try to practice even today, is try to figure out like who's your end customer. The end customer is your client. So try to figure out what it is that they want and figure out a way to be helpful. And that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah. Now, Noz, I love that story of you knew you made it when the check cleared, right? And I'm wondering if the rest of you had that moment where you were like, oh, it's going to work, it'll be okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still waiting for that moment.
You are. I really
This
hope.
helps.
We all wish you the best in your endeavors, John. Did either of you have a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm in business, this is going to work?
I mean, I have every month just before payroll, I make sure that there's enough funds to clear everything. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I can relate to that. And I think that's just the pains of running your own business. You just have to think about everybody else and how is it working out for you in the grand scheme of things. So I would say very recently, in almost 10 years of running this business, I've had that kind of aha moment when we just finished Showcase, actually.
Oh, yeah?
So, and then I was like, okay, I got this. I can do the design side of things. I just need to
Right.
figure out the business side of things.
Right, right. Well, it's really interesting, jumping from that. I've known a lot of design pros in the community over the years, and some are very, very talented and they soar. And some are so talented, and I can see their talent, but they either struggle or they don't quite make it and they leave the industry. So I'm wondering, obviously, you guys are the soar category. So what does it take to make it? And it's interesting to me that everybody has talked about the hustle, right? You started selling stuff in elementary school, I guess. So what makes a difference between talented, make it, and talented, I'm never gonna launch? What do you think?
I mean, you're hit the nail on the head. Hustle, the hard work. I think you need to have the work ethic and the desire and ability to just plow through it. There's just be some very different. I mean, I have every day. I'm like basically exhausted. Like I just want to crawl into bed. And I've been doing this for 16 years. So if you're thinking about starting it, just know that's part of it. That's just part of it. Secondly, I would say a confidence in yourself. You also just need to have that. And then lastly, a good support system around you, because there are so many highs and so many lows, and sometimes they're back to back and you just feel beat down, right? And so I think having that support system, whether it's family or friends or your coworkers, is like so important.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Anybody else want to talk about the hustle?
It's definitely a hustle. I don't think it ever stops. I have a notebook on my nightstand. I start dreaming about projects, and I'm sure you're all doing it, right? So I cannot go back to bed, and I force myself not to look at my phone or my Instagram at like 2 or 3 in the morning. So I pick up my notebook and I write down what I'm thinking about. So that's like, there are ways that we have to like figure out how to make yourself like calm down and go back to that Zen space and do it all over again every day. You have to like live it, breathe it, and really love what you do, I think. And also, if it's not working, if something's not working, I don't think there's any shame in pivoting. And that's okay too. If you got to figure out what it is that you're not doing right, like is your customer or your client wants something that you're not able to provide, then pivot.
Yeah, that's good advice. And it is so interesting how many design pros over the years have told me they dream about work and decorative arts and molding and stuff like that.
Shouldn't I be dreaming about my kids? I don't.
I know, but it's the important things, right? No, I'm joking.
And that's all billable time too,
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about, of course, a big hustle is getting clients. How do you find the best clients, and what are the characteristics of the best clients?
So I've been on a journey about this exact question. When I was early on, I come from a branding and marketing background, so I understood early on that I should, for me, to get what I wanted out of this business, I needed to just post and share and only photograph the work that felt the most editorial, or certainly the most bold, right? The most eye-catching, the stuff that looked the most differentiated, even as I was doing and continue to do work that's more conservative or more broadly appealing, and people may never see some of that stuff. And that was fine. But then that meant that I started receiving a lot of clients who said, oh my God, I love this specific project. I would love for you to do something like that in my house. And I thought that that was the right kind of client. And what I realized is, and this took years to figure out, the clients who come to me and my team for a specific look or a specific aesthetic are usually not the right client, because it's so much deeper than that. And most of our clients to this day, because my personal friend set, like half of them still are renting and the other half don't care about aesthetics. So I built most of my clientele through online stuff, right? Instagram, House back in the day, social media, now press. I'm still once in a while getting a referral client, but most of our clients are doing design with us for their very first time, and then they're the first ones in their social and professional groups to use a designer, which means a lot of their colleagues and their friends are not ready to do this, right? So you end up with this sort of like derivative effect where the first client was amazing and then their referral has like 50% of the budget and 50% of the interest in really trusting the process. So what we realized, and for me personally, is someone who comes to us just wants us to like tell their story, to figure out who they are and bring that to life. And that means that it should necessarily not have a predictable visual outcome. And so if we have clients who come to us and they're like, oh, I want you to do like, I love your Japanese treehouse project. Or like, oh my God, I love your rainbow house and I want you to do like a total color explosion for me in my house and this is what I want. And you know, like anyone who has a specific idea already of what we do and who we are as designers is oftentimes actually not the client. And it's the ones who know how to trust and are willing to be like terrified of the proposal, but they're like, all right, well, because you've done this before, we're just gonna, you know, trust that you know what you're doing, and what do we need to do? You know, what is our role as a client, and then we co-create something. So that's generally been the best. Because otherwise, you can only disappoint people if what they want is something aesthetic. Because they have something in their mind's eye and they want you to predict their brain. You can't do that.
Yeah, interesting. John, what about you? How do you find the best clients, and what makes the best client?
I've always thought by doing good work with the clients that you work really well with, they're going to bring more good people. So, yeah, referrals is mine for sure. Yeah.
And what makes a really great client? Somebody that you're excited to work with.
Well, that's...
And we all know it's budget. No, just kidding.
Well, that helps for sure, but it's people, and it's the relationship. So you have to learn how to listen to them, prescribe to them what they're asking for, and then ultimately, in the end, deliver something that's a little bit better than what they were expecting. And that, I think, is what makes a successful project. To give them that little element of surprise, to show your value when you deliver something that's going to make it even better than they had dreamed.
Alicia, what's the most unexpected way you found a client?
Unexpected. Okay, for us, house was not a big thing. Like, I think we had like one project on there, and we got a client through that. That was probably, it was kind of one and done for us, but that was probably the most unexpected. But I wanted to speak to a point that you made. One of the ways that we think about clients and like the commonality of what makes a good client is not necessarily if they're a design aficionado or they love architecture or even if they're fashionable, although that definitely helps. It's if they have an appreciation for beauty in anything that they do. Do they have a video game collection? Like, do they love wine? Like, whatever it is, that they have an appreciation and understanding and depth of some specific subject, that we can take that and like extract that to our process and apply that to interior design.
Right.
You know?
So you think that's a signal if they have a hobby or an interest like that, it's a signal that they can be brought along on the journey?
Absolutely, because then what we do is like so much in education, right? And so then if we can teach them and show them the differences between this quality and this quality, or this color and why you'd want this color versus this color, they have the ability to do that because they've already, you know, they're in the nuances of whatever that hobby or interest is already.
Yeah, interesting.
I agree with Alicia.
Yeah?
So that's definitely one of the things that I've noticed about my clientele too, and I try to like highlight that. And it makes the process exciting too, right? Because if they're excited about something and you're excited about design, maybe there's a way that this can converge, and a lot of times those make for really good, exciting projects, fun projects.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting to think about as you do your initial walkthrough, looking for things like that, right? There's a design pro in town. I'm sure many of you know him, Mike Ufferman. He works for Loxy Design. And he introduced me to this book called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Giarda. Has anybody read that?
I didn't read it, but I did download it and look at the summary.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, what is
halfway through
read? You know, what is read, really? It's, you know, you've experienced it.
I do remember one quote from it.
All right, let's hear it.
It says, I wrote it down, and I'll try to remember it. It said, hospitality is a selfish pleasure. And it makes you feel really good to make somebody else feel good.
Right.
And that really struck a chord.
Right.
So that I think I'm going to read that book.
Right, because you know what? If you didn't have that mentality as a designer, what are you doing in the business, right? So, but this book is really interesting, and the links that they went to, he was a restaurateur, and the links that they went to make the client happy and pleased were really unreasonable. But it worked for them in the high-end luxury market. So I'm wondering, for you, what links do you go to keep these clients happy? What do you do that really takes it to the next level? What about you, John?
Well, I'm a really bad one because if you've worked with me or for me, you know I don't say no to clients.
Yeah.
And I always say yes. Then I stop and I try to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've done some pretty outrageous things.
Well, I mean, don't just tell me that. Well, tell me an most outrageous thing.
Give me a minute.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
answer, and then
Yeah.
we could go back to you. I feel like in the spirit of unreasonable hospitality, listening, obvious, applies to everything, but so much in this job. Secondly, anticipating, right? What are their needs? If it's a repeat client, you kind of know. You know, like, the things that they get stuck on, the particular, peculiarities of their things, of their personality. So you're anticipating those things already. And then thirdly, everyone loves a pleasant surprise. So whether that's at install or whatnot, like we had a project that was they bought the house at the very beginning of COVID, and we installed them like 6 or 7 months later. And to kind of wrap that up, because we were all still social distancing, we hired a private chef for them. We got rental furniture, set them up outside in their new backyard. They didn't have a backyard before that. Really romantic dinner for 2, and we let them pick the date. And it's San Francisco. Well, cozy blankets for them on their lap, like candles, all the stuff. And so it just made it marked a special occasion for them in moving into their home.
I love that. And how important are those pleasant surprises to growing the business? Is it something that it's like we're just going to keep them happy, or does it actually help you grow?
I think you can't take for granted your repeat clients. Like, they want to be wined and dined. They want to know that they're special to you too. And so I think continually kind of staying on your toes and not taking for granted, treating them like they are a brand new client is definitely a good move.
Yeah. Noz, what about you?
So I might actually possibly be, at least spiritually, the outlier on this one. So there are certain things that I take tons of pride in. Obviously, we're a design service company, so I care a lot about servicing our clients, and we have a very high standard of how responsive we are, absolutely listening. I think sort of the way that we define it in our office is like, we need to have an intimacy with our clients where we do anticipate what they're like and observe what they are and read between the lines of what they're saying and telling us and actually deliver on what, but that for us is just the standard. And then everything else, and then also to your point about the dinner, I'm like, wow, I want to do that. I also want to be your client because that's amazing.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, wait, can I, maybe I will also have a blanketed dinner. So Sanrio, big brand, you might have heard of Hello Kitty. The founders of Sanrio, one of their sort of like mottos when they were opening into retail was little gift, big smile.
Oh, cool.
Which is basically the same concept, where if
Yeah.
it's something unexpected, like a giftie or something like that, that goes a lot farther than the monetary value that you might have invested in that thing. That said, we don't go out of our way for our clients. So what I realize, and this actually goes back to like who doesn't make it and who makes it. So yes, there's the hustle side, and yes, there's the every minute count side, but there's also the rest, and this business needs to serve you, and you don't serve your business side. And I think a lot of people burn out because it's so overwhelming, because a lot of us are pleasers, right? We're people pleasers. We take a lot of pride in and get a lot of joy from people being happy with what we've done for them. And I got so wrapped up into all of that that I started answering. I mean, as soon as I had any kind of meaningful client earlier on, I was answering phone calls at 10 p.m. and texting people back and allowing them to reach me when I was supposed to be on vacation. And I realized that I was going to burn out and set my business on fire and also set all my clients' houses on fire. That wasn't me if it was in the news. So I needed to have boundaries. And I went through this whole thing where I was like, okay, no one speaks to me after this hour, which was, I think, 6:30 or 7, and that was too rigid. So I've come to figure out, for me to protect my team from burnout as well, and then like rage quitting or stealing our clients or something like that, we needed to be very guarded and boundaried about when we're working. And so I think of what we do more in a professional services setting, kind of like a doctor, where like if you have an appointment to see me, great, and if you have something wrong, then you can email the portal. But otherwise, please do not be calling me with something that's not an emergency. I can't fix your emergency. And so our unreasonable hospitality is ideally, when we're doing this the best, basically anticipating and being so buttoned up and tight, which doesn't always work, that we don't have to do anything because no one's calling us with anything that feels urgent. And then on the flip side of that, if anything goes wrong, that's when we step in and take care of stuff. So if anything happens, we pay for that to go away, right? I carry a ton of cash in my business because, again, I panic about cash and checks clearing. But we carry enough cash that if something bad happens on a job, which it has, right, or something breaks on site, or someone is injured, like we have what it takes to just make the problem get solved as quickly as possible without the client worrying about it. And so our hospitality side is really on the fixed stuff because things go wrong, as opposed to like delighting people with really amazing things, which I just am not very good at.
Yeah. You know, I was going to ask you, John, because it's clear that your big gesture is so big, you're embarrassed to tell me on stage. So I am thinking that I was thinking about what you're saying, and what is the price of saying yes to the client? What's the price of that?
Well, I had to sort through all the things and remember which ones were under NDA and the ones that I could talk about.
Okay.
And the one that I can talk about
Oh,
is...
we've got one. All right.
I do,
let's
I have
hear
it.
Yeah. Okay.
We had once catered a private plane for a client.
Okay.
And we created these little branded caviar lunchboxes for their flight. And I don't know if any of you remember the McDLT where the hot side was hot and the cold side was cold.
Yes.
We even created these boxes so that the cold side had the caviar with a cold pack underneath it, and then the blinis had a warm pack, one of those hand warmers underneath it to keep those warm.
Yeah.
And we had them delivered, made them that morning so that 5 minutes before the wheels were up, they were handed to them, and it was the birthday surprise that she had asked for.
Now, listen, people. No, really. This is what kind of business this man is running. He had to think about what example to give, and that was it. So that tells me something. That's pretty amazing. And what is the price of yes, John? Do you ever feel like this is a lot? I mean, tell me about that.
Well, it did take probably 6 of the people in my office to work on it. And several days of planning, and then we created the packaging, and we created the labels, and we made it very cute and very personalized. I do have an invoice somewhere, so I could probably post on my Instagram what it cost.
Yeah, let's do that.
Because it was an ounce and a half of caviar for each person, plus 12 blinis and creme fraiche, and all the accoutrement. But it balanced out because it was, at the end of the day, it was so fulfilling and it was so magical, and they were so happy that I was like, oh, yeah, I really got back all the effort that we put into it.
Well, I mean, they're obviously still talking about that today.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, it's this private jet, obviously your clients own the jet. Do those kinds of efforts and gestures, did it pay off in another way where you got other clients on the jet?
It moved on to more work with the friends that were on that plane. I ended up getting projects with them as well. So yeah, absolutely.
See? So what's a little caviar between friends, right? Yeah. And Sindhu, I think you had one to add.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong, John. I'm not in the business of catering caviar to clients. But we have done something on a much smaller scale, and maybe that's okay too. I think, I don't know what was happening between this client and I. We were completely misfiring. Just whatever I threw out there, he was just not happy with. And one of the issues was that his wife would go on Instagram and different social media portals and find a lot of inspiration.
Oh, dear.
And it's like sometimes when people do that, you're just going down a rabbit hole, and it's so hard to like come up with a cohesive concept that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I invited them to our office on a Friday evening, and you guys remember this. They're big wine connoisseurs and members of several wine clubs in the wine country. And I opened a very expensive bottle of wine and had really nice cheese and chocolates. And then I made my presentation. And that seemed to stick.
There you go. Did you also take her phone while you were doing it? Yeah.
Delete all the...
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So no, I didn't do that. But what it did do was he realized what I was doing. And
Yeah.
on his way out, he turned back and he said, I see what you did there.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was pretty good. So what that helped me is it created a relationship for
Right.
us, and it put us on an even scale to talk about something that's design related, but indulging him in his hobby. So that sort of came full circle, and that was
Yeah.
helpful.
So I want to, we're getting toward the end, and I want to make sure we leave time for questions. So one of the things that I want to talk about is promoting yourself. And let's talk about very quickly, you all have something else in common, and that is you all have participated in the San Francisco Decorator Showcase. And I wonder, do you have any advice for either landing a room in that event, and once you do, how to turn that into business? You're fresh off it, so why don't you start?
All right. That was John, fresh off of
Oh, that's
Showcase.
right. You both are. You both are. Yeah.
But advice for landing a room, I'm going to pass on the same advice that was given to me by my design peers. Don't go for a really large room if it's your first time, and that's just true. It's for someone to put their faith in you. You got to show them first that you're capable, and you'll be able to put some good design out there and actually finish it in 3 months. So that's a tall order. So I went for a really small room when the first time I received it and awarded the showcase, and that was really fun. But this time when for the most recent one, I knew I wanted to go for the Reach room.
Yeah.
So that was the primary bedroom and bathroom. So we also bid on a smaller bedroom and bathroom, and I figured we'll just see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? They're going to say no. But Jeff called me, and he said, I got the entire primary bedroom and the bathroom space, and that was fantastic. So ultimately, it has to really depend on your design as well, like what it is that you're proposing. Whether you may be ready for it or not ready for it, if something about your design is good and it's what they're looking for, then you got it. And how do you turn that into a business? That's a whole conversation by itself, like leveraging all the people that come and visit your space and taking their business cards and trying to cultivate relationships afterwards. That's just some serious work you got to put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, John, you are a frequent flyer in this event. And,
Guilty.
And you've done a range of rooms, right? Everything from really statement making to a little more understated. What makes it worth it for you? And is it is it more profitable later for you to do something that is more real world or something that's more statement making, shows your skill set?
Well, for me, it's twofold. It's indulgent. I mean, you get to design a room without a client, and you get to express all your thinking unfettered. And hopefully, you have really good relationships with all of your subcontractors and vendors that you'll be able to tap into their resources as well. But it's also very expensive. So I am such an introvert that I use Showcase almost as part of my therapy for the year to make myself be out there, to make myself constantly meet people. And I go into it not hoping for work, but just hoping to make more relationships. Because that ultimately, I think, is what's going to continue to get you more work, is to be exposed and relevant and not ubiquitous.
Yeah. Well, you were the party room this year, so you got to meet a lot of people.
Well,
Right?
I've done 4 with other firms, and I've done 5 on my own. So
Wow.
I've done 9
Yeah.
in my career. And I think the way to land a room is to not do a room. You go through the house, decide what you want to say as a designer, and put that presentation together so that that room or whatever you design can translate to 2 or 3 different rooms. Because you're probably not going to get your first choice if it's your first time. Like you were saying, don't go for a big room, don't go for a statement room. But if they could take your idea and they see who you are and your board is clear and it stands on its own, they'll be able to put you in any room they want.
Yeah.
And boom, there's
That's
your...
smart. That's really smart. Do you guys have anything you want to add to this one?
If you get rejected, do it again. I was rejected wholesale with no comment in 2020, and I was devastated because I thought 2020 was going to be my big year, and then it was nobody's big year except for Senior COVID. But yeah, do it again.
Yeah.
Like I was encouraged to apply again last year, and then I did, and follow instructions. Don't put things on the back of the board. If they tell you you need to have 2 rooms, then design 2. Don't just do 1 because you don't want to waste your time on the second. Like, follow the instructions. And yeah, absolutely to John's point, design the room that you want to build at the end, right? Don't do it for an audience. Don't do it for somebody else's gaze. Choose the things that you dream of using, that your clients will let you use, and then hopefully that resonates and is interesting.
Yeah.
And you may get stuck with that furniture in your own living room.
Yeah. Yeah, make sure you like it.
I was just going to say, on a really practical level, if you have never done Showcase and you want to do Showcase, you need to just reach out to them and get invited to the preview first, which happens in December. And then you can come and apply to do a room. And yes, follow all the instructions, because they absolutely, I've walked by picking up my board and seen things just on the floor, and I'm like, they definitely didn't get a room.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so last Maverick move, all of you are very, very good at PR and marketing, whether it's Instagram, being published, what have you. What is your big tactic for getting people to notice what your firm does?
Back to starting off and being very blissfully unaware, I had no clue about any of this when we started Studio Haimont. This has been a long road. And I would say, 1, hire a PR firm.
Yeah.
If it's hard enough to be both the creative and the business side of your business, it's also very hard to then go, oh, also I'm gonna be the marketing and PR person too. So hire somebody to help you with that, and try to think of your end user. Like, always have that person in mind and think about, like, what do they want to see? How do they want to receive that? And that's where you should focus on, like, spending your attention and resources on getting into those places.
Honestly, the most frequent question I field is how do I hire a PR firm? Who's a good PR firm? Things like that. We've got a lot of great talent here in the Bay Area in that realm. How did you find the PR firm that
we ended up going with? So it was also a long journey with that. We've worked with a few different people, and ultimately, my advice would be, like, you can learn from my decade of experience and mistakes here. I would look at all the people that you, as designers or architects, that you admire, that you're like, oh my gosh, I love that thing. I love that they got in, Vogue. I love that they got in this magazine or whatever on this blog, and figure out who they're working with. Make a list of all those folks, all those firms, and then see if they'll take a call with you. Because you might think that you're interviewing them, but actually they might be interviewing you. So depending on the caliber of the firms. So I just methodically, and it takes time to do the research, but
Yeah. What about you, Sindhu?
So I have a PR firm as well. Initially, we hired them on a project-to-project basis because sometimes you just can't. They're expensive. You just cannot afford to retain them on a monthly basis. So, and that's okay to only have them project-based, so they can help you when you have a nice project to launch. That's a really good perk to have. But I don't know that I am completely relying on PR firms to do the marketing. I'm still trying to figure out how to best market myself. Recently, we started getting clients and requests on Instagram. House has not been helpful for us at all. And also, I think at the root of it all, I'm trying to figure out how do I stay in the minds of all these people so that they reach out to us when they have a design job. So I don't have an answer yet.
Yeah. Well, your PR firm is doing a great job, by the way, because, this is, in terms of getting published, often, for me at least, it's not the first, it's not the second, it's not the third. And your firm has done such a good job of showing me the work, showing me the work, showing me the work. And this last one was a hit.
Thank you,
Everybody
Mary Jo.
loved it, and it's coming out in Lux, and it is amazing work. John, for you, you're on, you know how I know you and I have the same humor? Because everything you put on Instagram is so funny to me. You put on, and you have like your incredible work, which is how I knew you had an Idaho project and knew to follow up, right? You put incredible work, you're doing these photo shoots, but you also mix it with, this is really funny, and you've been doing a lot of political things. So I wonder for you, is Instagram a strategy or a hobby for you? Is it?
It's both, for sure. And I use it to buttress my work because, again, it's about relationships, and I want people to hire me for me. Because I
Right.
can't be anyone else. I can't be I am who I am, and you're going to hire me, and we're going to date for 18 months while we do your house. So
Yeah.
let's like each other, and
Yeah.
let's do a good job.
Yeah, I have a lot of laugh out loud moments with the things you, as well as, I know what you're working on, but you post a lot of really things. I wonder if you ever get any haters for, he doesn't put anything that's super extreme, but when you post political things, is there any blowback about that, or?
Not yet.
Not
So I
yet.
think I have a good circle of people that are like-minded. and
Yeah.
yeah.
And Naz, you're the same way. Your Instagram is very much, here is my work, here's my opinion. And how do you use that to get clients?
Instagram is very strategic for us, which is also why sometimes I don't want to do it. So I have a Finsta who nobody knows about, where I can actually follow dog memes and have a good time online. Otherwise, it is very much just work, right? Same thing with John. Like, I need people to know who I am and what you're signing up for. And sometimes that includes political thoughts if I am fluent enough in that particular topic. But yeah, Instagram, and I'm I think the freak on the panel who does all my own marketing, and I have, except for a very brief 10-month stint where I worked with a publicist to get introductions into New York. That was my very specific goal, is I want to know who I'm supposed to know in New York, because I came into this industry without any connect, so I didn't know who am I supposed to know, who am I supposed to talk to. Everything else from there has really been the sort of like know your end user thing, is just understand how journalism works, right? So it's taken a while, but I have really enjoyed, and I like marketing, so it's fun. I like brand, I like doing all of this stuff. So it's easy for me to pay me to do my own publicity instead of pay another firm. But you know, if you do a good job with the journalists and the writers and the editors who are reaching out for like a little couple of sentences about what do you think about the new color of the year? Or, hey, can you send me like 2 to 3 different new outdoor things from IKEA that you like and why? Like, these are little opportunities that were so very exciting for me in the beginning. And these days, I do it as a matter of business. It's the relationship building with editors and with future editors, right? A lot of folks who are freelance writers, that's not where they're staying. They're not going to be a freelance writer forever. So help them out with their story, hit their deadline so that they can hit their deadline with their editor and they get promoted. And now you know someone who's the new deputy editor of XYZ magazine. So that's been my way of doing it, and also understanding the publishing side as well, sort of the advertiser voice in all of this, and how does this whole system of machinations work when it comes to print. And that's been really rewarding for me to figure out. But then social media, because I didn't have money for so long to have any kind of publicity or marketing budget, the budget for me was take good pictures and post those on Instagram, and maybe someone will notice. And then if they do notice, then you do a really, really good job with that little opportunity that you got, and maybe that little opportunity will become something bigger. So it's all just been kind of laddering up.
One of the things I really enjoy, and in fact I'm very jealous of, the AD online series you do. I think it's really well done. I really love it. Of course, I know no other magazine but Lux Interiors and Design. I don't know how I even saw it. But I wonder if that, participating in those kinds of activities, does it lead to business for you?
I think it leads to people knowing about me, much in the same way that I've never designed a showcase room, whether it was here or in Palm Beach or whatever, for someone to want that room in their house. It's too crazy, right? I'm doing it so that people have a chance to meet me, right? I stand in the room. That's the biggest time commitment for Showcase House, is you're in your room meeting people, trying to stay nice the whole time, even when people throw wild curveball questions at you that are totally inappropriate. Sorry, what was your question?
So, yeah, that's all we have for today. Yeah. So I said, does it lead to business? And you said
yes.
it leads to recognition.
It's all roundabout, right?
Yeah.
This is the difficulty with marketing. Unless you're doing a direct marketing campaign where it needs to lead to dollars, like your dollars in lead to dollars back to you, it's all, do you have faith that long term this all becomes something?
Yeah.
Clients oftentimes take a really long time. They're shopping for a designer because they know that their project is maybe going to start in 6 to 12 months. So you just have to be ready. But with regard to the videos, I think it's more of a validation, right? By the time that someone has chosen us and our firm, they've probably Googled me. They've probably seen that we do YouTube things. They have a good sense of the process. But the AD videos, the Space Saver videos, the biggest opportunity there, besides people getting to see how like I talk, so if they think I'm obnoxious on video, it's going to be even worse in person. The bigger thing is I get to talk about the process. So I think people have started to realize that we're not just like clowns who just throw things at a design board and then like have to do it because someone somehow liked it. Like there's a thought process and a meaning to the things that we do. So it's been good for that. I think video in general, even as I'm terrified to produce it myself, but I'll be on camera talent any day, producing your own content where you talk through what you're thinking is really the opportunity, I think, in the future, so that people know there's a reason. So even if the room looks subtle, there is a very specific reason why I chose that table instead of another table, or this particular sofa. And is it the story of the maker? Is it where it's made? Is it the material? Is it the guts inside of it? Or is it a specific line and a specific curvature that connects back to this other thing or this other part of the house? Those kinds of process things you just don't get from a still image. And then you just have to pray someone cares about your post enough and is not exhausted enough that they bother to read what you wrote, which they probably don't, right? They're just looking at the picture, heading a heart, and then they move on, right? Because everyone's tired and there's too much visual chaos. So video to me is the opportunity, ironically, for everyone in the audience set to slow down and actually bear witness to what it really is that we as interior designers do.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so we started talking about the Asian American Pacific Islander Design Alliance, and I want to end at least our part of the conversation with that. If people want to join the Maverick group, how can you join if you're interested?
Okay, so on the website, there is a tab that says Become a Member. And you click that and you fill out a questionnaire. And it was just recently updated, so that's it. And now you're a member. We actually aren't, let's see, starting January, we're going to be asking for membership dues. So this is your window of opportunity to
join
be
now.
a member before January
Yeah.
2025. And then also you could follow us on Instagram, DM us. We can send you the link. And finally, we'll all have the link too on our phone. So come find us, come talk to us. I know I see a number of people in here who already are members. Also, I want to say this is not just for Asian people. So like literally every single person in this room could be a member.
Yeah.
And we encourage you to be. So
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for answering my questions. Now I want to turn it to the audience. Now, what we're going to do, Michael Moore is back there, and he has a microphone. So if you could raise your hand, give Michael a second to get to you, then you'll be able to speak into the mic, and we'll all hear you. Who has a question? Tinica Tri. Oh, there's one back here, and then Tinica.
I'm just curious if you all have the same billing formula.
Yeah, billing formula. I know Noz is different. How do you do it, Cindy?
It's different with each client. It's either hourly billing or a fixed base billing. And sometimes clients will have a preference, and you try and work with them and come to an agreement that works for both of you.
Yeah, anyone else?
We're a flat fee on the design, and we do a specific number of rounds per space, and then anything beyond that is renegotiated, because if you still don't like it by round 3, you're probably not the right client versus pay me more to do more. And then once we start executing the project, so either ordering things or starting the to-scale CAD drawings, we move into a monthly fixed fee for the project management duration of the project, and then it's basically just a retainer, and we just do whatever it takes.
we are hourly and then a markup on anything's purchased.
We bill a fixed fee for interior architecture, and then hourly for project management and construction administration, and then there's a processing fee over top of any sales.
What about the caviar tax?
That's on the
That,
house.
afraid I was a little bit for them and a little bit for me. So
there
I
you
got
go.
paid in caviar.
That works. Michael, I think Tinica had one up here, unless there's someone on the way.
I just wanted to actually say that I really enjoyed today, and you guys rock, and I'm really proud to say that you are all my friends and colleagues, and it's just enjoyable to see colleagues do so well, and I'm proud of you all.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. This is such a good community.
you, Tinica.
I love the design community.
Hi, so thank you. It's true. It was so interesting. It's really great. I have 2 questions you can choose from. Well, I have a long list, but I just try to keep myself. So the first one is, do you use artificial intelligence and how that helps with your business if you use it?
Interesting.
And the second question is, how do you protect your business from Google image search?
Ah, that's a great question. So AI and protecting your
I'll
images.
take AI because I
Yeah.
don't have anything to say about the second one. But I like embracing new technology and I like testing it out. The implementation of it throughout the firm is a different story. But yeah, I do. I totally use ChatGPT 4.0, and that is super helpful in if I'm writing something and I'm like, you know what, I need this to be tighter. I need this. I'm a little bit emotional right now. I need to let this sit. So instead of doing the like, oh, let me sleep on it, I could also be like, here, ChatGPT, help me make this sound reasonable. Or secondly, now that it has the image capacity too, I do use it sometimes to brainstorm and ideate the beginnings of a product or custom thing. So like we placed a big pair of amethyst crystals in a client's home, and now we need to figure out the stands for them and the lighting. And so I'm like, okay, so here's about the color I want, about the size I want. Can you like just see what you give me? Some things were kooky, and some things were like not bad. And I'm like, great. So now I think the format is probably going to be like a brick size. It's probably going to have light this way. Maybe I have a secondary, line of light. So it just takes me there, and then I still have to design it and draw it and figure it all out and the components, but at least it's helpful in the ideation piece.
Interesting. Anybody else?
No idea how to protect ourselves against Google image search, but I'm guilty of that myself, so cannot help you there. But with AI, that's a great question, because that's something that we're going to have to think about. Not just, of course, I use ChatGPT for the same exact reasons that Alicia mentioned, but then the other flip side of it is that's going to be the future of design, or at least they're going to try to it's going to try to be the future of design in some way, and try to eliminate designers, because there's already, like yesterday, my husband sent me an email for a company called Rastro, who's trying to, their playbook is that the designer is the enemy, and they charge this multitude of fees, and we are an open book, and come and use us, and we will get you furnishings from all over the place. It's headed by a guy who really has no experience in design in the service industry at all. To me, it sounded like a whole bunch of mansplaining. Just had no clue how to work in a service industry. Like, you really have to, it's not about you, like Kamala Harris said. It's not about me, it's about you, right? The client, right? So it removes that service aspect of it. So how do you fix problems? How do you take care of custom solutions? How do you take care of dimensions? How do you take care of logistics? There's just a lot that AI still cannot answer. But I do think it's going to be competition for us in future.
Interesting. One more question.
Yes, thank you. I'm here with my graduate class of new interior designers coming out in the industry. What type of advice do you have for them?
Yeah, advice. Can you say it again, John? I didn't quite catch it.
She's asking for advice for her class.
Ah.
Can you clarify? Do you mean like, do you want to start your own firm, or like advice on how to get hired? For me, what's exciting about what's coming is that very likely housing starts and home ownership, even just as a concept, will be increasingly unattractive or unrealistic for next generation home enthusiasts. So I think just, the advantage of everyone who's in their 20s and younger who wants to enter this industry, especially if you have technical skills, is lean into the technical skills. Figure out how to just be everywhere while you're young and you don't have other distractions. Like, one of the ways that I was able to figure out how everything worked was going to events, going to things like this, going to networking parties and meeting people and asking questions and staying in touch. It's a lot of work to do all of that, but I think whether it's something where you want to get a mentor someday, or you want to be hired by someone someday, or you just want to figure out how to do this yourself by stealing other people's ideas and making them your own. And I say stealing like this because I don't actually think it's stealing. I think like ideas are open market. The more you're out there and get away from your computer screen and invest the time in utilizing all the resources, especially in a city like San Francisco, but even as you go to New York on like partial work and partial education trip for yourself, and go to the galleries, ask questions. I think one of the things that was so intimidating to me when I was younger was I didn't want to feel stupid. I didn't want to ask a question that was the most basic question, or I was too embarrassed to ask what something cost because I knew I couldn't afford it. And as it turns out, finding out what everything costs is very helpful education to start understanding what is high quality, what's not. Why is this expensive? And people are nerds. Everybody loves asking questions at antique fairs. If you're like, I don't know anything about antiques, Go to the SF Fall Show coming up in October. Ask all the dealers questions. Ask questions that you think are stupid, and just be curious and like suspend your embarrassment about it. And that's how you get the real education after you have the technical skills. And that combination is what I look for in team members. And those are the ones where I'm also the most proud when they go off to do their own thing.
That's great advice. That's great advice. And I'll say, I've had a lot of students come up to me and say, how do I get published? And I've been at this so long, now I've published some of them. So they call me grandma, but it's okay, you know? Did anyone else have advice, John?
The worst advice I ever got was from my first boss in 1998. And he told me, as I was starting as an intern, you want to be in this business? Marry rich.
Oh, well.
And I rolled my eyes and I did my job, and every day now, 25 years later, I think, that's what I should have done.
Yeah. You know, it's never too late. It's never too late. I mean, I don't think we can top that. So let's end on that. And everyone, I'll see you at Riggs. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.